While we're on a roll here, why don't we go ahead and do the 5th episode of our sed implementation in Haskell. Last time we implemented a basic parser that parsed the 4 commands that we had previously created and had some success. This time I would like to implement some flags and implement the specifically the -in flag or quiet flag and have sed print by default. So we'll get started on that. One thing I do want to do first is clean up some messes. I forgot to add the bar symbol as a delimiter for the substitute command. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that real quick. Add bar as a delimiter. And I also want to start exporting these modules explicitly instead of importing explicitly in other places, because there's really only a few functions from these modules that we'll actually need. So for example here, instead of implicitly importing those, I'll just have import parser, and then here all we really need is sed. So over here, yeah, all we have is sed, so that's fine. And I'm going to start using this convention of having 2 separate blocks of imports, one for ones in my program and another one for the ones that aren't specific to my program. Okay, so let's go ahead and add those changes too and say explicitly export functions. Okay. Now let's get started on working on some flags, and the way I'm going to do that is using the GitOps library. So I can use system, I believe it's console .gitopt. So I'll put this before that to be alphabetical. And you can read up about the GitOpt library a little bit in the documentation. But basically you make a options function, which is just an array of a particular data type that GitOpt supplies. And let's see, the way I'm going to do this is just have each one of these. I'll do an option like help, just for an example. And help will have no arguments. And it'll supply a data type called help. So we need to make that data type flag, and help is a type of it, so I'll just do data type flag is help. Okay, so let's add the other ones. The other ones I'm going to implement in this episode is the quiet or the -in flag. And I also want to allow for specifying expressions and for specifying scripts. So let's go ahead and derive show and EQ on those. And let's add those into our options array. So option quiet is in, quiet. It does not have an argument, quiet, and it suppresses automatic printing of the pattern space. Okay, and then the option E is going to be our expression option. It does have an argument, and it's a required argument, and it's going to take an expression, and it will add the expression to the commands to be executed. Okay, and then finally our file or script option, which will take a script and it will add expressions from the given script. And there we are. Okay, and then it's not difficult to just use the getOps supplied function to get all the flags, arguments, and error messages. So we'll just do the getOpt, require order, with our options and our arguments. Okay, define but not used flags. Just to kind of test a little bit, why don't we just print out each of these? So we can just do this and XX, and then we can do this. And let's take a look at it. So now we can run GHC with our main, and if we give it nothing, then we get nothing back. If we get -n, then we get the quiet flag, the help flag. If we feed in an expression, then we get the expression. If we feed it a file, we get a file. If we put an argument on the end of that, then we get that argument in our arguments. And the error messages are empty right now, and I'm not planning on really using them right now, so we'll just empty that. And we don't need that. And it's saying that we are redefining args here. So if we don't want that warning message, we can just make this into something different, like got args, and that is that. Okay. Now we need to figure out how we're going to use these flags. Let's see here. Let's go into GHCI and browse through the getOpt. Oops. Browse through the what was it? System.console.getOpt. Let's browse that. And it has a function called usage info that takes those options in a string and gets back the string. So let's try loading our main function, and then let's try using this usage info with our options. So what do we get here? Looks pretty good. So let's have help print out that message. So when help is an element of our flags, then we want to do usage info with our options, and then we want to exit successfully. So then we gotta import the library that has when and the library that has exit success. Uh-oh, okay. Okay, we're getting a string here, so we need to print that out. Just like that. Okay, so now if we use this with the help, then we get help. So I'm not really sure what this extra string here is for. Let's just put foo in there and see what happens. Aha! So this can be like the name of our program or something, or the version or whatever. I'll just put options for now. Or usage. Usage makes more sense. And we can revisit that later if we need to. But for now, I'm happy with it. Okay. The next thing we need to do is make use of the rest of our. Let's first. I would rather this be like this. There we go. All right. We need to make use of the rest of our flags. So this is going to be the tricky part because we have expression flags and a script flag, and the script flag needs to actually read the file and concatenate with the rest of the expressions. And then we need to find a way to send the quiet flag on. Let's do that first because that seems a bit easier. I was thinking about this, and I think I would like our sed function to have an additional argument that's just a Boolean value for whether or not you want to supply the -in flag. So we'll just add another argument to our sed function for in, and I'm just going to pass it on through to run commands. So run commands will also get a Boolean value that we will call in, and then we have to pass it on down here because this is a recursive function. And here we can do unless in, then we want to run the command print. And that was really easy. Okay. Now we just need to pass a Boolean value in here, so we can just say if quiet is an element of flags. And we're done with that. Now we need to figure out how to pass the expression in. Right now we're just using the beginning of the arguments. The way sed works, though, is that if there are -e flags supplied, then the first argument is actually considered a file instead of additional arguments. So we need a way to figure all of that out. Maybe the first way, or the first thing we can do, is look through all the flags and combine all of the expressions that the flags give us. So we'll do like a expression, and we need to extract the expressions from these options. So that'll be easy for this, for the expression, because that's just a string, but for the script we need to read a file. So we know we're going to get an IO string back when we try to read the file. So why don't we just map all of these flags and have a function called getExpression, which takes a flag and gives us back an IO string. And we're just going to say that it is, if the flag is an expression, then we'll just return that expression. And if it's a script, then we will read that script. And if it's anything else, then we don't really care what it is. Okay. So let's test this out just to make sure it's working. Okay. So we want to remove this help flag so that we actually get some information. Open file does not exist, so we're specifying a file called script, but it doesn't exist. So let's do something like simple. Oops. And let's see. Okay, so that worked. Oh, this reminds me, we have these new lines here, and we need to make a change to our parser. Right now it only separates commands by semicolons, but we also want to separate them by new lines, so we'll just put that in there. Okay, and let's go ahead and commit that change too. So I'll just do a git add up, and let's see, no, yes, no. So that should only, yep, put in that one change. And we'll just say allow new line to separate commands. Okay. And where were we? Okay, we were running our command and it was working. So you can see here that the in flag that we had just got turned into an empty string like we specified. And what we want to find out is if all of these strings are empty strings, then we want to use the first argument instead of the strings. So, is that right? Yeah. So if all the strings are null, then we want to use, oh, what happened here? Let's do a redraw. Redraw. There we go. Not sure why that happened. Okay. So let us say if all of the expressions are null, then we want to use the first argument as our expression, but otherwise we want to combine all of these expressions with a semicolon. Intercalate's not in scope, so we need to import that. Data list intercalate. And then we need to put all of this somewhere. So we'll just say exe for execute. And then we can just put this into our function. And that should work, I hope. Let's see. No, we didn't feed it anything. We'll just feed it our script because that's easy. But right now we're executing foo, which doesn't make any sense. What else are we doing? We're doing, let's do something simple first. Let's say this. Okay, so that works. It also is printing by default like we wanted. If we add the -in flag, it does not print by default. If we add the -in flag in print, it does print anyways for explicit printing. If we do EP, that is not working. Not even a little bit. So let's try and figure out why that is. Let's look at our expression here. Interesting. And let's look at our exe. Aha! So we're getting a semicolon at the beginning, which we don't want because there is a null in there and we don't want null. So we want to filter out all the ones that are not null in our expression. And let's just use this because it's nicer. And now we get what we wanted. Let's see if we can just add another. And that works. And let's see if we can add the script. And that works. Like it changed the test to XXX, just like we wanted. Cool. So that seems to be working. Let's see what we've done so far. Mostly in the main file. Or all in the main file. No, not all in the main file. Okay. So let's add some of these changes. Let's not add that. Let's add this and say added Boolean value for -in flag. Okay, And we can just add all this at the same time. It's a pretty big commit, but I think that's okay. And we'll just say added management of command line flags. Management, is that a good word? Sure. Okay. And one other last thing I wanted to do was, instead of in our sed, let's see. Yeah, we already have all our bases covered, right? To get rid of this warning, we can implement the hold command real quick. And there's a lot of commands to left to fill out, but this is just an example of how easy that will be. We want the hold space to equal the pattern space. There's no data constructor called hold, so we need to add it, and then we need a way to parse it. And then we need to add it to here, and we need to add it to here, and we added a whole new command, and everything is happy and everything is good. So I will just commit that, added hold command, and we will tag that as episode 5 and push that to GitHub, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this.